Guys, my name is Nonema Tikela. Welcome to my YouTube channel. So today I want us to talk about Brigadier Gininda Bongani Ndanzi, Abo Bongani, Bobaitu Bongani Nicholas Ndanzi, Gininda, Bongani Sandiso Ndanzi, and Mjiako, Justin J. It's gonna be a short video, but I want us to talk about certain issues. You guys, have you noticed how Brigadier Gininda want us as the country to believe that Ubongani Ndanzi Nomjiako knew each other. And Ubongani Ndanzi is the one that called Umjiako. And that brings us to so many questions because how did Bongani Ndanzi know Umjiako? How did he know Umjiako? From where? Because Umjiako is not like it's a guy that goes to KwaNongoma or a Rustenburg as whatever. Like, is not in the league. Yaka Bongani Ndanzi. Does it make sense? Bongani Ndanzi is always in mines. This one is always in offices in Gauteng. Does it make sense that they know each other? No. Someone brought Mjiako to Bongani Ndanzi. And now, what I've noticed throughout the testimony, as Ndanzi is continuing with his testimony, is that Gininda wanted us to believe that Ndanzi is the one that called Mjiako, and also Mjiako did these things for Ndanzi. Mjiako appeared on behalf of Ndanzi because Ndanzi was comfortable with him. I don't know if that makes sense. Also, Ubongani Gininda wants us to believe that the reason Ndanzi never signed the deal, okay, it could be. He wants us to believe as if there were still negotiations about sentencing and stuff. But wait, all of this happened in June. All this Shende Yaga Senzo Meyiwa happened in June. What is it that made them so relaxed? So relaxed that they did not do everything that was needed to be done in June when done after the confession, the second confession. Why was this thing of the Section 2 or 105 not signed? Like the deal that I'm a Section 204, and also I'm gonna be the one. This is how you're gonna get sentenced, or have done the sentence and be serving his time for whatever, for his involvement in the so-called crime of unaliving Senzo. Why wasn't all of that done before October 2014? So my thought is this: they wanted all of this to look like they got arrested sometime in October 2020. Sorry. They wanted it to look like that, but to find out now that no, by May, Sibia was arrested. By June, Ndanzi was arrested. July, I don't know, is it accused number 3? They already visited. August, number 4. Maybe September, I don't know. They kept arresting every month. They kept arresting someone every month. That's what it sounds like. But others will hear when they take the witness box, when exactly were you arrested? Because we know number 1 was 30th May, number 2, 16 June. We want to hear when was accused number 3 charged for Senzo Meyiwa. Okay, according to him, when did they visit him and told him that we are arresting you for Senzo Meyiwa? And now they forwarded the dates and then made it look like the arrest happened in October, which is not true. Which is not true, even though accused number 3, 4, and 5 were in prison, but they were not visited in October to go get charged. We will hear from them when exactly. The other thing is that Gininda wants us to believe that Ndanzi agreed with all of these things, and then they relaxed and then did nothing about it. It doesn't make sense. Something is still missing in this puzzle. I don't know if you guys get me. Something is still missing, and I don't know who's gonna add it in. But also in this Ndanzi puzzle, there is something that we don't know because Ndanzi is telling us his entire story. I think by now he's done with the pro forma and everything. Now Uram Sipile is dealing with evidence of the witnesses that they came. He dealt with Zungus yesterday. So today he's going to be dealing with other people's, I suppose, perhaps Gininda, perhaps Mokgane, perhaps Mokgola, I don't know. But my thing is, something is still missing. There is a corner of this puzzle that is missing because I don't understand why the entire deal with Undanzi that was being negotiated. Do you remember in those transcripts that say Hlabane, Mjiyako is saying that Undanzi is not in court and is abandoning bail because he's busy. This is January 2021 now. He's busy with what you call negotiation section 105, which is not true, according to Ndanzi. Something is off here. Something is off. I am still trying to understand why was this so-called section 105 maybe also becoming a section 204 for Ndanzi, not done and completed back in June, July, when he got arrested, did the so-called what you call what do you think? Confessions. Why was all of this not done and finalized there? What made them wait? If everything was above board as they want us to believe, why were they so chilled about it all? I'm just having those like those questions, né? Because according to Brigadier, the first time he hears of Mjiyako is the 23rd of June 2020. I'm looking at my notes. Is the 23rd of June 2020. Now, another question that rises is, why did they do in front of Rapadu a so-called confession if Ndanzi has a lawyer in his pocket without a lawyer? Why? Why did they do that without a lawyer? But according to Ndanzi, he did not know Mjiyako before this period of the 24th year. Now, he only first met Mjiyako on the 24th. He did not know Mjiyako. But according to Gininda, Yena is Gininda. The first time he comes across Mjiyako is the 23rd of June. Now, the question that comes to mind is this. How do you negotiate Section 105 before the negotiator exists? You can't. Law does not allow time travel. Something is amiss with all of these details, Gininda. It doesn't make sense. Now, on the 24th of June, there's a confession, so-called confession made in front of Cronje. The state wants us to believe that this confession was triggered by Section 105 negotiations. Kanjani? Njani? Something, ikona manindwe of apa, ikona noba indoni na. And then they want us to believe their theory, because this theory collapses. Negotiation could only have happened on or after the 23rd of June, not any other time. Bail was abandoned on the 22nd of January the following year, not 2020. Guys, there's a lot of things that are happening here. So this confession does not even justify the reasoning or the justifying the bail decision. Something is going on here. Something is missing. I don't know if I don't know. You cannot come later. You cannot. You came later and then you want to explain what happened earlier. Does that even make sense? No, Manokininda, guys, ngeke. By the time of the confession, the accused has legal representation, according to Gininda, which is Mjiyako. And funny enough, the lawyer is already on record. Yet, things that are not making sense, there's no objection, no postponement, no request to consult, no application to withdraw, no challenge to detention conditions, everything that Ndanzi was going through. Mjiyako sat there and did nothing about it. And Cronje went on to take the so-called confession. Do you see why Mshololo is always talking about Section 35 of the Constitution? And you must also remember what the accused says when first consulting the councils. I have not bathed for days. I have not contacted my family. That deals with Section 35 of the Constitution. So why didn't Magistrate Cronje know that that is the violation of dignity, a violation of freedom, a red flag that demanded immediate intervention from her? Why didn't she do anything about any of that? And then we are expected to accept ukuthi all was well. Mm-mm. We must accept Mjeko as Ndanzi's lawyer after all of those things did not happen accordingly. Go, no, man, guys, no, no, no. A lawyer who allows a confession under those conditions, conditions, is not exercising his strategy. They are standing inside a premeditated process, and that can be a better representative for instance, a good or a great representative for an accused. It can't. The accused is detained, yet the court allegedly specifies Moroka police station. That is not technicality, guys. That is unlawful detention. That Magistrate Cronje, when she was sitting with Ntanzi, should have told them, release this man. She did not. She did not. And we know that the law of South Africa is merciless here when it comes to such things. A confession obtained while a person is unlawfully detained, legally represented but unprotected, and deprived of dignity is constitutionally contaminated. That we know about South African law. So when you strip away the noise, what remains? Bail abandoned before negotiations could exist doesn't make sense. DPP engagement invoked without lawful context doesn't make sense. Section 105 used as a retroactive excuse doesn't make sense. Confession taken despite representation doesn't make sense. Detention conditions unlawful doesn't make sense. This is not a weak case, guys. This is a manufactured timeline. And also, when it comes to looking into these things that do not make sense in front of a magistrate, Cronje, one does not stop but wonder, what was her role? Why did she continue to do this, seeing all of these discrepancies? Why? Doesn't make sense. And when a case depends on rearranging time itself, the court is not asked to evaluate evidence. It is asked to suspend reality. The law does not do that. It can't be right. Something is very offish with this whole situation. I don't know what exactly, but there's a missing puzzle, or there are missing puzzle pieces here that needs to clock in. I don't know about you, but let's talk in the comment section. I want to hear your views. Thank you so much. I'll see you on our next video. Bye-bye.